Hey guys, welcome to Pillbox Movies. I'm Hank, and today we're going to be watching the 1971 film Walkabout. The film is directed by Nicolas Roeg. Roeg is one of those kind of iconoclast English directors whose work I've admired, but perhaps haven't delved into so thoroughly. Roeg is responsible for such iconic films as Don't Look Now, Walkabout, and of course, the most iconic film for my generation at least, 1990's The Witches. Like I said, I've seen a couple of Rogue's work. I liked Don't Look Now, and I love The Witches, but this is a good opportunity to check out some of his other stuff and get a better sense of him as a director. But before we start, if you enjoy these videos, click the like button and subscribe if you want to watch more old, obscure, and art house content. Alright, let's watch Walkabout. We start with visions of society. I'm guessing the, Perth, Sydney metropolitan area. Don't really know Australian cities that well. Bunch of children participating in a breathing exercise, much to my discomfort. Okay, they're doing breathing exercises for a chorus. It's a choral class. Choral! I'm guessing these are going to be like three central players, a daughter, a son, and a father. That was cool. That was like a surreal kind of transition. Ooh, that's a wonderful shot right there. Wow. And once again, we get the shot of the cutaway from the bricklaying to the Australian outback. But also just like a lot of eating happening in these opening scenes. That's not good. That seems to be a kind of murder-suicide degree of fuel. And I like the kind of departure from like the overstimulating oral experience of the city, and now the emptiness of the outback. Ooh, that's no good. Oh God. Ooh, I like how bright that is, and how saturated that shot is. Dad's going genuinely insane. What's causing this? Man, she is going to get so much sunburn. I don't know, I think it might be a good idea to find raiment, like, near the car. I feel like that burning wreckage would be spotted really easily, but I also don't have any idea of how large the Australian outback is or how far in they are. Yeah, that seems like a distance. Nicolas Roeg's like, I'll show you, David Lean. You've got your desert, I've got my outback. Ooh.
It's time you went to sleep. You've got to be up early in the morning. I don't sleep here.
These survival genre films always give me so much anxiety because, like, I have a rough idea in my head of what I'd want to do differently or the same, but you gotta wonder whether or not they're actual good survivalist tactics. Like, I'd want to travel at night when it's cooler, but it might be too cold, and it would be harder for, like, people to find you if you're traveling during the dark. That's cool. Jonathan Glazer loves that. No need to go up this mountain, girl. What are you doing?
We can see where we are from the top.
I guess. Doing some reconnoitering. Yup, you're screwed.
Apart from the scientific explanation, the expectation of the world, that is, that human society will someday come to an end.
Isn't fair. I'm fed up. No, you're not. Come on. And I'll practice my voice lessons.
Wasting a lot of energy there, kiddo.
Not yet. We ought to eat some salt. Why? Uncle
keep up your electrolytes.
When there were soldiers in the desert, they always had to eat salt.
You're gross, Nicolas Roeg. You're gross. Nicolas Roeg is gross. How has this boy, like, not gotten a sense of the like issues that they're under right now?
I'm not sweating now.
Oh, you should definitely drink something then. They don't seem to be doing great, I gotta say.
Make him come.
Yeah, they don't seem like they're doing great.
I'm not coming back. Going now.
Much. They make my legs ache.
Well then stop climbing up them. I don't especially want to watch a movie of kids dying. That usually isn't my MO for watching movies. Oh wow. Is it really there? But I'm getting kind of like Wicker Man vibes of like kind of like a domesticated religion or worldview going up against more paganistic reality. Not reality, but a conflicting ideology. Oh, wow. Random snake that you didn't notice in the tree. How did that oasis just dry up so suddenly?
Don't. You'll ruin your nice shoes. Oh. No.
Oh. I mean, there's still grass, so there's gotta still be moisture in the ground. I don't know if it's a good expenditure of energy, but maybe they should try digging down a little bit. Lots of crazy lizard shots. That's like a cool fisheye. It's a good way to describe 2020. Holy crap. Lots of genuine killing of animals in this movie.
I want to drink! Where are the others? You can't quick! Stop him! Run away! We want water. Anyone can understand that. We want to drink. I can't make
I don't
it
know
any simpler.
if she's being entirely too clear. Yeah, see? Told you. Dig in. There was just like a full brush of just beyond the ridge, just beyond that hill, there was like full greenery, and they had no idea. There's a lot of experimental techniques that are being employed in this movie. I appreciate the experimentation. Just as a viewer, I'd say, for my personal taste, some are successful, some aren't. Don't like where this is going.
I'll be alright in the morning. They got a bit sore from...
Dude. Why are you trying to show off this sexy tree?
Oh dear.
Is she getting her period? Some severe sunburn. Ooh.
I told you to keep your clothes on.
Girl, stop looking at his butt.
Slipped off the windowsill and fell down and broke his neck.
charming story.
Wish we had a proper pencil.
I don't know if this movie is my favorite so far. It's very kind of like ambling in a way that I think would be really appreciable in like a movie theater context, but I don't know if it's the sort of thing that I can walk into blind and provide reasonable commentary for. It's kind of like a whole vibe. It's an atmosphere. But I do like the idea within this like specific environment of the boy kind of like mapping behavior right now, that this is kind of like a formative experience, and he's like, dude, we don't need to do this entire sequence. We don't need to keep going with this. Nick. What is that? Don't eat the bat! No! Corona 2020! No! I don't like this kind of... I don't even know if I understand it, but I don't like this kind of juxtaposition of like what I'm perceiving as like masculine and feminine activity. I don't know if it's a fair comparison to say that the man haunts while the woman kind of luxuriates in her beauty. That lightning shot was cool though. So I guess we're just gonna like, you know, not talk about that sequence again, and just like we'll leave it to like future consideration. But you know, the idea of that scene being plotted out and filmed and scored and it cut, just having a lot of men watch this teenager swim naked, seems like it just seems a little bit like a weird look to me. How the heck is that radio still going?
Look what I found! Over here! Come on!
So they seem to be skirting the like kind of outliers of society right now. Like they could like re-enter into civilization if they wanted to, and they're electing not to.
That must be a weather balloon. This black one.
I definitely get a sense that he wanted to explore kind of an emotional or atmospheric story, and perhaps the political implications or more literal implications. We can debate whether or not that's these were kind of like intentional on his part, or a strong priority on his part. I'd be really sad if this aboriginal ends up getting killed at the end when they re-enter society. I feel like that would follow the tropes of this kind of movie very easily, but like kind of weird kind of human sacrifice that our filmic understanding, that our filmic language and our filmic prejudices and cultural biases demand of this kind of movie. I want to give this movie as much of a pass, or as much kind of like try and understand it before judging it as much as possible, if only because Roger Ebert has this listed as one of his great movies, and so while I don't always agree with Roger Ebert on his, you know, taste on a movie by movie basis, I think of him as kind of an intelligent and emotional movie watcher, and if he sees value in a film, I definitely want to kind of respect that and reach out for it and try and like understand it as much as possible. And the same could be said for Roeg. I think he's a very intelligent, very sophisticated filmmaker, and I want to kind of like, where I can, try and respect that he has a vision and purpose in the story that he's constructing. That was a cool shot. Kind of signifying kind of aspects of miscommunication between these two characters that have been identified very intensely in ways of having like a sexual attraction to each other or bond that kind of like cultural differences or displacements is like preventing them from fully realizing. And this is kind of creating a an interesting interaction where, because they're no longer in survival mode, because they're no longer dying, them having this, still having this relationship of like demanding these interactions with him, that he like services them, it perhaps becomes an inequitable relationship as a result. He's gonna get gored. Welcome to Jurassic Park. Animal rights advocates must be fuming about this movie. There's an interesting regression that's happening right now, that as the kids are becoming are like kind of like enjoying the trappings of civilization more, nature is resultingly becoming more hostile, and there's this kind of like push and pull of the children viewing nature as more hostile and threatening, and these adults viewing nature as something that can be exploited and kind of like over viewing nature as something that can be exploited or kind of over harvested. And it might be kind of like the two sides of the same coin, this kind of like fear of nature, and perhaps by association, fear of indigenous cultures, that allows us to take the mindset that these elements need to be subjugated and need to be controlled and under our dominion because they pose a threat. And that's an interesting idea. The aboriginal, oh Jesus. And again, to tie in with the idea of like colonialist cultures perceiving indigenous cultures as like a threat that needs to be controlled in the case of their presenting danger or harm, this kind of all of a sudden made up rape narrative. It's an interesting dynamic, kind of like on a micro and macro level, of who's the perceived predator. What's the power dynamic of this? Who's the predator and who's the victim? Within the context of this scene, the Aboriginal, with their wild cultural traditions and whatever the heck he's doing, are perceived as a threat, as a sexual threat to the girl, despite their ongoing previously cooperative relationship. But on a macro level, the Aboriginal, the indigenous culture may kind of like perceive itself as the victim of a larger colonialist threat.
What's it dancing for?
I don't know.
Perhaps
Stay? He just wanted to bring us to the road. We must be near a town.
Yep, that's all he wanted. The noble savage. He just wanted to help you out this entire way. Absolutely no equity in this relationship other than the perceived altruism of the indigenous people. And
Should I eat this properly?
yes.
You should always sit down when you eat. Shouldn't wander about.
she's become very callous and trying to like hide the realities of death from her brother. Not a moment of prolonged introspection for her following his death. That was a really kind of scary ending to this relationship. I think this movie definitely, like, I think over the course of this journey, the narrative is meant to express an emotional arc or an idea of these characters that they perhaps aren't, their actions aren't always to be identified and related to by an audience.
Will Dad be there? No. Oh. Is he dead too? I'm not sure. No, it wasn't. Then I don't know. No. Did it hurt?
And like exploring all these bones, these ghosts, carcasses of Western civilization, the kind of rot of it and unsustainability, and how everything, there's no like cycle of renewal in industrialization and in civilization, that things are just left to rot. And it doesn't even rot, it doesn't even decompose, it poisons the land as it falls into turpitude.
What should we do now?
I don't know. Well, they've made a decision. I get Graham's job when he leaves Friday. Thought, if we're going to compete on the Tommy Martin...
My heart an air that kills, from yon far country blows. What are those blue remembered hills? I see it shining plain. The happy highways where I went, and cannot come again.
Okay, I guess we all remember, our first semester abroad. I think, yeah, John Barry's score I didn't like. I think this is definitely kind of like, again, a film that's meant to be experienced in a movie theater, and it's an experiential film, and like trying to parse out all of the kind of like the literal themes might be too much to ask for just like a first reaction, like a first viewing, because it definitely like this film is definitely like chock full of a lot of ideas, but it presents them in kind of like in a more suggestive, kind of like open-ended way that I don't know, trying to parse it out literally might lead to more knots and entanglements than necessarily intended. I think it's meant to be experienced more than it's meant to be directly understood and like, used for like, like indigenous nations policy. This is definitely an interesting film. I think very expansive, very, very challenging, and intellectually curious. To a certain degree, this isn't a fault of the film. This is just like us living 50 years after it, and hopefully having developed some in the interim period. But I kind of feel like this kind of film, it's very, very interesting, and it's very honest in its self-assessment of Western culture. I think perhaps it's in that kind of reflexivity, in that introspection. It gets a little bit navel-gazing of saying like, these are the crimes that we as a colonial society have committed, and look at what we've lost, and it all feels a little bit kind of like woebegone. And what I'm trying to say is like, I feel like the presentation of like this story of the English children being unable to communicate with the aboriginal teenager, I think it's a sensitively portrayed story about lack of about miscommunication and lack of understanding, and white people will never understand indigenous or black people. But like for me living in 2020, that's like still like a narrative that's like centering around this idea of white plight and white forlorn. Like, if only we had chosen differently, things could be so much better. Yeah, I think this was an interesting film. I definitely think all of Roeg's films that I've seen have been more challenging than they've been pleasurable. the only exception being The Witches, which is as enjoyable as it is terrifying. So yeah, that was Walkabout. A really interesting movie. I think you should definitely check it out if you haven't seen it before. I don't know if it would align with everybody's taste. I don't even know if it particularly aligns with mine, but definitely an interesting effort by an extremely talented director. Yeah. If you enjoyed this video, click the like button and subscribe if you want to see more old, obscure art house films. In the meantime, keep watching good movies. And, good day, mate. God. Kill me. Take care.